Today, I am pulling back the curtain on my personal experience of TikTok subscriptions, and I'll be completely and totally honest. I wish I hadn't done it the way that I did. So, if you are thinking about setting up a TikTok subscription or you have one and you want to kind of just feel into what you should be doing with it, this might be a topic that you should stick around for, because I'm going to be completely and totally 100% real raw with you about this. So if you are completely and totally new to my channel, welcome. My name is Janine. I'm a live video strategist and coach with nearly a decade's experience teaching founders, coaches, and consultants how to use live video to generate leads and make sales, to build your brand as you want to, as you should be doing so as the authority within your niche. So that's a bit about myself. I want to know a bit more about you. So do let me know in the chat what it is that you do. Now, before I continue chomping on, because we've had a couple of restarts here, let me just make sure sound, visual, and everything is okay, because darlings, it's been a bit much today. Yes, okay, so we are coming in nice and clear. Sonic boom, check the old checker device. But I'm excited to have this chat with you today on the topic of, was it a mistake? I regret launching my TikTok subscription, and here's why we need to be having this truthful conversation. And I want this to be as interactive as possible. So for those of you that are going to be watching this on the replay, don't worry. I'm going to be putting this into chapters so you can skip around. Don't worry about it. But do let me know in the comments, have you ever set up your own TikTok subscription? Drop a yes, a no, or I am thinking about it in the chat. So I have been thinking about sharing this topic with you. And if you know anything about me, I am a coach who doesn't sugarcoat. I'm very honest about things, because I want to make sure that you are well informed and that you are taking the steps forward that's going to really support the longevity of your business and your brand. Because we're not here for 2.5 seconds. We're building things that are made to last. And sometimes we can look at things and think, oh yes, shiny object, this is what I should do, but without making the informed decision. So I'm going to help you to do that, especially as a lot of you have been asking me about TikTok subscriptions going live, the different features and so forth. And one of the things that I will say about this subscription when I set it up, the membership, monthly recurring revenue model through TikTok's feature, is that I scaled up very, very quickly. You know, within a month, we were at 40 plus members. So it seemed on the surface to be a really good solution. And what I will say is that there are pros and cons to it. Like with anything, this is not a video that is poo-pooing it, but it is something that I think is really important that we have the conversation so that you yourself are well informed. So if you have any questions, please make sure that you ask, because we are going to be doing a Q&A segment at the end of the session. So if there are any of you that do join live and you want to ask questions, then that'll be the time for you to have your questions answered, and I will tell you truthfully. So what we're going to do now is we are going to get into the backstory, why I actually launched it. Why launch a TikTok subscription? If you are a coach with nearly 10 years experience and having run successfully memberships in the past, why did I decide to go down the route of setting up a membership, a subscription within TikTok? So here are pretty much some of the reasons why. Now, giving you a bit of the backstory, I wanted to create a deeper community, nurture my paid clients, and build beyond the follower number. Because the truth of the matter is that a lot of people talk about having community. And my question is, how are you fostering community beyond the number against your profile, beyond the viral videos? Because it goes beyond that. And one of the things that we will know about TikTok, and especially for me, I was doing a lot of lives, is that how do you continue that conversation? How do you build beyond that if there is no replay? And yes, of course, we do have access to our content, to our lives in the TikTok studio, but you don't have the comments, you don't have all of the other things to be able to continue on that conversation. So I was pretty much looking at how I was going to be able to do that. how am I going to create a deeper community beyond the live stream? How am I going to then start looking at nurturing clients with a low barrier to entry, because that's what we want to have? And so I realized that there was a challenge of keeping people engaged beyond the lives, simply because of the way that TikTok itself, and TikTok Live in particular, as a creator, not TikTok Shop, it was quite difficult to keep those conversations going. And I wanted more than just a gifting culture. I wanted to have that real connection with those individuals who were constantly showing up, engaging, being supportive, and commenting on my content, because you'll know that the way TikTok is set up, aside from TikTok Shop, it's very much heavily focused on gamification. So right now we're seeing a culture really geared towards gifting. Let me know what your thoughts are about that in the chat and in the comment section. It's geared towards gifting, the daily heart me, giving gifts and being part of community, when the underpinning message is, number one, supporting TikTok's bottom line. I've done a video about it. And there are a lot of creators that are spending lots of time talking about the importance of going live, which it is important, but from the perspective of growing via gifts. And so we have to, or my thoughts were, we've got to move beyond that. And welcome to everyone who is joining live. Do let me know where you're tuning in from. So these are the layers that I was thinking about. If we're thinking community, we want to continue conversations, which is all of the things that I wanted to do, as well as having a nurture strategy. It felt to me as if it was a no-brainer. It was a really, and let me know what you think. Looking at these reflections, are these the kind of things that you personally would be thinking about? Would you be considering it? It's something that I want you to, let me know in the chat. But I want to move now to the next portion of what went wrong, because let me tell you, it did go wrong for me personally. So what actually went wrong with the TikTok subscription? Why am I saying here that I am at that point of wanting to, not shut it down, but really kind of think, well, what do I do here? Right? And not what do I do here as in from the viewpoint of I'm totally confused, oh my gosh, but from the viewpoint of a strategist, as a marketer, what do I want to do now? So I'm going to share with you what actually went wrong, and I'm going to share with you some of the things that were mistakes and what you can do differently. So let's get into the what went wrong. So the first thing is that I made the mistake of following everyone, and that diluted my feed. Now, we all hear about follow for follow, and we know, or we should know by now at this stage of social media, you don't follow people just to get the follow back, especially if you are a serious business owner. You want to attract your ideal clients and build from your profile based on the audience that you want to serve. The follow for follow culture is not something you do. But also on a deeper, more strategic level, if you are using your social media platforms, or using TikTok specifically to grow your business, your brand, attract your ideal clients, what does that mean? You have to make sure that the content you're putting out is SEO optimized. You need to be engaging with that type of content. And remember, I'm speaking to those of you who are trying to use this strategically for your business to attract your ideal clients, not those of you that are just having fun with it and you don't mind what your audience is, and it can be Tom, Dick, or Harpo, you don't mind. I'm not talking about that. Those of you that are in the general category. I'm talking about those of you who are being targeted, strategic, and specific. So you know that you need to optimize, because the moment that you move away from that, you're going to start diluting down not just your following, but you're going to be creating essentially a mixed bag of nuts. And that's what happened for me. I followed everyone who was part of the membership, and that diluted down my feed. But in addition to that, if you think about as you're growing, as you're scaling, because anything that you should be doing should be from the viewpoint of growing and building up, What happens when you start to get beyond 10, 20, 50, 100, 500 members, and you're following all these people? How are you going to keep up with it? You're not going to be unless you have an assistant. And even I have an assistant, but it's difficult to do that. But on another level, what tends to happen is that you end up following people that aren't necessarily your ideal clients, or don't necessarily create the type of content that you traditionally would engage with. And so that's what I found was happening for me, is that I was just ending up with a really diluted audience. And then what do you do when that person isn't active? They don't have an active account, they're not posting, or the style kind of content that they're posting you don't stand behind. So that was the first problem that I encountered. Another problem I encountered was low ROI. When you think about it, everything is about money and it's about business. Well, definitely for TikTok anyway. And for those of you who are business owners and marketers, you've got to be thinking about your bottom line. But there was low ROI. So when you create a membership of any form, now for me, I have my own memberships. I've run them successfully over the years. But when you're creating them, you create from a viewpoint of, number one, your revenue is coming to you, but also in addition to that, what you're finding is that you create a structure which has a success pathway that you're offering to your audience every single month. It's no different with the TikTok subscriptions, that you are promising, you're going to have a specific promise, whether it is that you're creating weekly content, monthly content, whatever it might be, whether it's videos, whether you are creating community, whether you're doing lives, there is that promise for a very small amount. And so for me, I created a subscription that was £4 a month. So it was a no-brainer, low barrier to entry, creating community and allowing people to road test some of my quote unquote coaching, not really coaching, but some exclusive content. And there's that as well, creating the content that sets apart from the regular content. You've got to be thinking about it. You've got to be creating from that viewpoint. Absolutely. But if you're setting up, for example, a low barrier to entry subscription, TikTok takes most of the money. They take a huge cut and a huge percentage out of that. So that's the first thing. And then when you're left with less than half of the remaining balance, we have to remember that you have to give to Caesar what is Caesar's, i.e. you got to pay the tax man. It's not free money. So you still have to declare that. So at the end of it, was coming out with hardly anything. And so it's like, okay, this is a low ROI for the effort that we're putting in. Is it worth it? So you might want to be thinking about, well, if I am going to go down that route, how am I going to do it or set it up in a way that I am well compensated for what I'm doing? The next thing is, it was hard to foster two-way community. So one of the recommendations via TikTok is that when you set up your subscription, you also set up a Discord channel. How many of you have heard of Discord, whether you're watching this live or replay? Drop it into the comments. Now, I'm not a big fan of Discord. I think the interface is clunky. I don't like it. When I'm creating community, I want it to have that, that luxury feel, that you are in a place that you want to hang out, not in Dragon's Den. Like, and not literally Dragon's Den, the entrepreneur show, that you're actually in a Dragon's Den, just dreary, dry, crusty. Don't want to do that. So I did not opt for that. But the problem is that TikTok offers a very basic, when I say basic, you have a community, it's called I can't remember, it's community, sub-community, I can't remember, it's sub-something anyway, which is the community space where your subscribers have access to. But it's dry, because when you go in there, number one, it's only you who can post. So this is like a channel. But number two, people don't get the notifications. You have to manually tag people. Then that's if people allow you to tag them. And they can only reply to the actual post. What kind of nonsense is that? Like, if you're thinking about community, which is what I was doing, trying to foster conversations, it weren't working. It was just that was rubbish. I literally was just like, every time I posted, I was having to tag people. And then you could only tag a set. It was just a whole long thing. So it was just not a great way to foster two-way conversation. So I then thought, do you know what? We can't keep this. No one cares for this space. Who's going to be interested? If it feels like it's too much work, people aren't going to take action. We know that, right? You think about it yourself. If you want to get to what you need to get to, the destination with the path of least resistance. And that was just not a path of least resistance. The next thing was moving to a Facebook group, which added ridiculous amounts of friction. So, as I said, I was struggling with the community. Welcome to those of you that are jumping in. Do let me know where you're tuning in from. So we're struggling with this subspace, this community space. So I was like, no, this is not working. Let's build a Facebook community. So one of the things that I will say to you, and I won't get into it too much now, when you're thinking about your TikTok subscriptions, you need to think about lead gen and still being able to speak to the people outside of the platform. So I had a strategy with regards to that, funneling people through to my list, which is what I was able to do. I got up to, at the peak of my membership, we got up to 60 subscribers, and then we've dropped down. I think we're at 37 now. I'll talk to you about the churn in a moment. But of the 60, about half of those individuals jumped into the Facebook group. So there was a lot of friction between getting people from TikTok, off TikTok, into a Facebook group, because some people are on Facebook, some people are not on Facebook, some people are on Facebook, but not necessarily active. So there was all these things that were going on in the back end, but it was the whole process to get people there. There was a lot of friction, because typically people like to be where they hang out. Facebook people hang out on Facebook, TikTok people hang out on TikTok, YouTubers, as we are, hang out on YouTube. So it was just a lot of work to try and move people over. Now, some of you might be saying, well, I'll do a subscription and I won't do any of this, and that's fine. But remember, underpinning, if you're trying to build a community that you're going to nurture, you're going to have to think about something that doesn't necessarily take people off of TikTok, but provides a place where you can continue the conversation with them, and they can also be a part of community conversations with others. You want to create that networking dynamic. So there was a lot of friction there. The next thing is that subscriber churn was very, very high. Listen, Linda, listen. You had something that typically, the way TikTok is set up, and I do explain this in my bootcamp, you have to understand the follower to buyer journey. And through your own personal products and services, whether it is product-based for TikTok Shop or it is service-based in the digital space, you have to understand the follower to buyer journey, especially if you are leveraging live streaming. And I go into this in depth in my bootcamp. So cohort 4 of the ToK Like a Boss Bootcamp. If you're interested in finding out about it, cohort 4 starts on the 23rd of this month. If you want to learn TikTok marketing, live strategy, all of the things that's going to help you to move your followers to customers, then the next cohort is the 23rd of June this month. So in just over 2 weeks' time. Then the next one's back in September. But all of the information is linked in the description below. So go and check it out, secure your place. You can do it paid in full, or you can use ClearPay, Klarna. We've got some options Afterpay as well for you. So go and check out all of the details of that bootcamp. But it's a combination of self-study, videos, trainings, workbooks, as well as group coaching sessions, audits, and also live trainings and Q&A. So going back to what I was saying in regards to the subscriber churn, you're going to avoid that if you have your own membership, your own monthly recurring revenue. You're going to avoid all of that. But with TikTok, the way that they set subscriptions up, and it's so complicated in terms of, not to set it up, I'm going to be doing a whole video about that. I've put it into my community tab. So go and vote for the next video you want to see about it relating to this topic. But it's not easy. It's easy to set it up, but in terms of dissolving it or breaking it down, it's so hard. But for those who subscribe, when you're doing your lives or it's on your page, people aren't subscribing from your page, typically from your actual live streams. That's where people were subscribing to my quote unquote membership. But the churn is crazy. Now, just to explain churn, if you don't know what I mean, when you have a membership, typically how you should structure it is that you take people through a success pathway, and you will have, depending on how you structure it, your churn can be 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending on how you set up your memberships. But typically that you have to expect that your memberships are going to have people come in and go out. But with this particular thing, it was literally people coming in because they're signing up just for a month, because TikTok gives you the different options, and there is a prompt to do it, to redo it, but it was just ridiculously high. And I believe that part of the reason why churn is so high on the TikTok subscriptions is because people, if you don't understand the follower to buyer journey and they're coming in at certain places and they're going in for the low barriers to entry, nothing wrong with that, then they are stuck at a certain point. And the truth of the matter is, I believe, to whom much is given, much is required. Hi, Yasmin. Good to see you. Thank you very much for joining. To whom much is given, much is required. By the way, guys, please make sure that you are giving this a thumbs up. If you are liking the video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. Please do share it out. And if you've got a question, please drop it into the chat, but do stick around for the Q&A portion at the end of the video. So churn, ridiculously high, and not something you really can avoid with TikTok subscriptions. And I do have the people that I currently have, I think 30 plus members, those people have been there pretty much from the beginning. So I know I've got my loyal, like, ride or dies that are part of the subscriptions, but constantly getting people in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And so because it's an in-app feature, it's really difficult to control that. Now, for me, I did have a system set up between my automation, email automation, so emails are important, as well as my assistant support, that when people were dropping off, they were being notified. They were not through TikTok, they were being notified. But that was a lot of work. If you're thinking about what I talked about a moment ago, where it's not much money for it, it was a lot of work to do that for £4. So these are some of the things that you've got to think about. There's going to be a lot of churn. Do I really want to deal with that? It's a pain in the butt when people just subscribers are hokey cokey in and out. Do you want to be dealing with something where you know that it's going to have that high drop off and come in and drop off rate? Because the drop off is constant. And one of the things that I will say as well is that the TikTok subscriptions, how it was built for me and for most people, is that, and this is why lives are very powerful. Let me just take to the live streets for a moment, friends. Lives are very powerful. Lives are the way you accelerate know, love, and trust, which is why most people get their subscribers from their live streams, not their videos, not via profile visits, via their lives, because that's where people are making the decision based on what you're saying, accelerating know, love, and trust, to then sign up for your subscriptions. So lives are very powerful, but we need to be making sure that everything leads to what we are creating, not other people. And again, yes, you use features, you use the tools, but not as the foundation for your business and your brand. Does this make sense? I've got my coaching hat on now. Not as the foundation for your business and your brand. It's got to be part of what you do, but not the foundations of what you do. So I really do hope that makes sense. All right. So if, as I said, you have any questions, my friends, please make sure that you drop it into the chat. No question is silly. I am going to look at your questions. And some of you are watching very passively, quietly. That's good. Do make sure that you say hi. Let me know where you are tuning in from. And if you are enjoying today's content, then please do let me know in the chat. And really and truthfully, I want to know if this is helping you rethink how you might use TikTok subscriptions, if at all. If it is, then let me know in the chat. Drop your ideas, your little emoji, anything you want to do. It's fine. All right, so let's move on. So the next thing is no real control over content access. This was something that if you are a business owner, if you've run memberships, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So for example, you run your membership, somebody decides to cancel it, they don't continue on. What typically happens is that you have the control, you then remove access. But the way TikTok subscriptions are set up is that TikTok, there's this cooling off period where people still have access to the content even though they haven't renewed. You've been notified that they've dropped off, but they still can jump into your lives or still jump into and get access to your content. And I used to see, and you'll know if you are running a subscription, as someone who has cancelled or hasn't renewed comes into your live stream, TikTok notifies you. Obviously, it's not seen on the front end, but you see, Joe Bloggs' subscription is about to expire. And it constantly comes up. Like the person, if they keep coming back to your live, you keep seeing this person and you have no control over it. None whatsoever. If you, for example, have somebody who subscribes to your exclusive content, and let's say, for example, there's someone who trolls you, or there's somebody who, in my case, was stealing content. Yes, conversation for another day. somebody who was stealing and copying my content that I actually had to send an email and send a message to, like, you're copying everything that I'm doing. You need to stop doing this. That person is still to this day an active subscriber, even though myself and that person are no longer connected. And that person has actually blocked my account, even though they have access to my content. So if they want to, they can come back at any. It's kind of crazy, right? But the point that I'm making is that there are all these different nuances that takes away your creative control, not just your creative control, but who has access to content you're creating. And for me, if I'm creating exclusive content, as should you, that content has to be set apart from your regular content. So in my subscriptions, there are a lot of tutorials that were helping you to take your content to the next level, understanding strategy that will help you get better results from your content. Not monetization, because that's it behind the paywall in my paid programs, but a lot of things that would help you to strategically understand how to use TikTok a lot more. So there's all of these different things that get in the way. So it's a bit of a pain in the butt, right? Would you agree? Would you disagree? Do let me know. So those are some of the things that really, for me, were just like an absolute, complete and total, like, no, right? My goal was always to turn my viewers into community, and then from community into clients. That was always my goal. Because as I said, as business owners, as marketers, that should be the underpinning thing that you do. But then, as a business owner, you get to, as you understand strategically, especially if you're using social media, you start to look at what is generating leads, what is getting clients. The things that aren't, then you kind of remove them from your process, right? You dumb them down from your process, right? You don't kind of keep it going. So the thing is, with TikTok subscriptions, they make it really, really difficult for you to be able to come away from that. You just literally can't, right? So I'm going to ask you a question. Those of you that are watching live, or if you do watch to this point on the replay, in terms of some of the mistakes that I made, some of the things that were red flags, which of those surprised you the most? Like, which ones you're like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have expected that? Do let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. So we're now going to move on to the next portion, and this is, what would I do differently? So bearing in mind now that I've gone through the process, I've had my subscription, which is, as I said, in the 30s. I've held it at about 37, 30, 38, round about that mark. In terms of that, what would I do differently, having had this subscription now for about 8 months? And here's what I will say, and something that you need to know, is that once you have a subscription, you have to be active to keep the subscribers going. You have to make sure that your content, because if you're not going live, at the very least, if you're not going live, if people don't see you, they're going to drop off. They're not going to continue on with it. And so bearing in mind, do you want to be on that hamster wheel? Do you want to keep creating in a system that really isn't helping you to see the kind of ROI you would see if you went a different route? And so, as I said, for me, yes, I have my subscription, and yes, I have, most of my members are on my email list, so I still am able to tell them about the pivots, the changes, all of the different things, which is what I'm going to be doing. So it's not like, oh my gosh, it's a complete and total loss, but it is something that I really want you to think about. Don't just create the subscription because the button is there for you and it's easy to do, and you think that it's going to be, a gold mine. You're going to naturally get new people and you're naturally going to get clients. No, it doesn't work that way. And even though I was actually having a chat with a client earlier on today, and she was talking to me about, a friend who is frustrated with going live and gifting. And that's the whole thing. A lot of what's being taught on TikTok is, well, just go live and you'll be able to get coins. People will gift you. Well, no, why are people? You need to think about, why are people going to gift you? The what's in it for them. And another thing is that people tend to still be really numbers focused. So and you want to be fostering community, absolutely. But people will, with the utmost respect, people are sheep. They will follow what everybody else is doing. So if somebody is on a live and there's hundreds of people on the live stream, and just because the creator's saying this is what you have to do to have success, or everyone's doing it, or because that creator has a lot of people in their live stream, that must be the holy grail, that must be the right thing. And a lot of people are getting trapped in TikTok's ecosystem and then getting frustrated because they're told just go live and people will gift you, and they're doing it and not seeing the return and going live for hours at a time. Like, in order for you to even be able to earn really well from subscriptions, earn really well from gifting, you have to be at it 24/7 for long periods of time. And as a business owner, if you are busy and your books or your family, whatever it might be, you ain't got time to do that. I'm a live video strategist. I love live streaming. It's the heart and the foundation of my business. I've been able to build a successful business. 8 years I've been doing this business-wise. 10 years I've been live streaming, and I wouldn't do it if it wasn't something that works. It clearly does. I think it's set to be a 24 point something billion by 2027. We're around the corner from that. So this is not, live streaming is not going anywhere, and it is a very powerful tool. But you, as a founder, as a business owner, coach, consultant, whatever industry you're in, whether you're at startup or you're along your journey, you need to be intentional with your strategy and intentional with what you're doing. All right, so let's move on to the next point. Thank you to those of you that are hanging out with me here. If you are enjoying today's content, please be sure to give this a thumbs up. If you feel like this would benefit somebody else, don't gatekeep it. Do hit the share arrow and do share this out. Please definitely drop me a comment in the chat, live or replay. I would love to know your thoughts on this. So what I would do differently, well, number one, set clear intentions first. So what is the reason why we do what we do? Is it for visibility? Is it for community? Is it for conversions? It's really important, whether it's subscriptions, gifting, having a digital product, service. What is the reason why? And one of the things that I'll say to you, if you're using a specific feature, why are you doing that? What is the purpose of that specific feature? Because when you understand that, and when you're really, really clear in your mind about it, then you're going to be able to establish very quickly whether or not that's going to be the right thing for you. And if it is, you're going to know what you need to do to be able to get to that point, and it will keep you consistent. But if you see that something doesn't have longevity or could lead to potential burnout, then you know what to do with that as well. All right. So the next thing is, what I would do differently, and I would advise you as well, is to create a low ticket membership off platform. You have more control and you're going to have a better ROI. Now, we know these social media platforms do not like us to drive people away or off the platform. And so again, I want you to start thinking about how you're going to do this strategically. Every single platform, no matter where you are laying your virtual hat, you need to understand that you cannot leave your people there. You cannot just speak to your community on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook, none of these social media platforms, because why? The goalposts change very quickly. The goalposts change. AI, algorithms, change of platforms. We've seen this with Instagram, was a photo sharing platform and was a photo sharing app. And now it is a short form video platform, still trying to compete with TikTok, can't do it. And people are screaming about it. Oh my gosh, make Instagram great again. Well, the platform has shifted. And at the end of the day, if the platform, whether they rightly detect or wrongly detect with their AI that you have done something wrong, then you can lose your platform. I had a friend who was banned, restricted for over a week from going live because she said a specific word on her TikTok live, not trying to be offensive, and she was restricted for hate speech. Appealed it, it was declined. Now imagine if that have been a permanent ban. And she's built her whole community over there, gone. So you really do need to be thinking, yes, I want to be creating in a space where I'm getting that visibility, I'm getting that traction, I'm building the community, but I cannot keep them there. You have to think about where you're moving them to, and you have to be intentional, strategic with that. So you have to start having some conversations. So what I would do differently is keep TikTok for awareness, but not for holding community. TikTok itself as a platform is not great for holding community. You need to think about something else. All right. And then the next thing is, don't try to do too much. It becomes unsustainable very, very quickly. And we all know about burnout and fatigue. We don't want that. It becomes very unsustainable very, very quickly. And here's what I will say to you, just so I'll let you have a look at this again. If you want to screenshot it, you are more than welcome to, as you're thinking about your own strategy. If you are thinking that this is something that you can do, right, and you can do it well, I want you to keep in mind what I said earlier on about the ROI financially, and the fact that TikTok do take a significant cut from it. So you might want to make sure that you're creating something or a price point that reflects it being worthwhile for you. And that can work, or it can be difficult, because I've seen some people with some pretty hefty price points on their subscriptions, but they have people that are paying for it. You have some people that have different tiers, and their top tier, you're getting, I've seen somebody with like 20 something pounds a month for their subscription, and I think people are getting audits or something. But again, that's a lot of work for even that amount. So you really do need to think about it. So that's, if you have questions now, I'm going to open this up. Let's have a look if we've got any questions. Please do let me know in the chat. And the question I have for you is, if this has helped, we'll make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell, and just, if you want to see more content like this, this is what I'm going to be sharing. And if you have questions, make sure you're dropping them on the posts in the community tab. If you want to, when I put polls up about specific topics, please make sure that you are voting. Today, we have been talking about the topic, I regret launching my TikTok subscription. Here's why. And I could have gone a lot deeper with it, but those are the points that I wanted to share with you today. And so if you yourself, again, like I said, you've been considering TikTok subscriptions, I'm going to encourage you to click on to the video that pops up there. If you're watching live, it's not there at the moment, but it pops up there. Go and check that out, and make sure that you come back for the next video. And I look forward to chatting it up with you again very soon. Take care. Thank you.